First of all, this is a very interesting constituency, as you rightly said. And as we all already know, in 1992, when the MPP, then in opposition, boycotted the 1992 presidential and parliamentary elections, what basically happened was that they didn't even field a candidate in the Ejisu constituency. However, since 1996 up until today or even tomorrow, that seat in the records of our parliamentary hazards happens to be recorded or be in the records of the NPP or held by the NPP. That is for starters. Now, another reason why this seat has now become very important, and it's unfortunate it happens to be at the demise of one of the industrious parliamentarians who happened to also be the deputy finance minister. That's the late Honorable GHOne Kuma. But this is the thing. Currently in parliament, the NPP now have 136 seats, and the NDC has 137. Remember that the former MP, which is Andrew Esiama, is on the records of parliament an independent candidate. So the NPP now has less seats than the NDC, and that is why this seat is very important. But it's important we also look at it from a historical perspective. So we've heard so many names. The names we hear now is Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi, and we've heard John Kuma, and the new name in the cap is Kwabena Boateng, which is representing the MPP. However, there is someone who was MP before all these names came up, and that is one Akwesi Osei Eje, who first entered parliament in 1996. So basically, between 1996 and 2008, Akwesi Osei Eje had served as MP for what was then known as the Ejisu constituency. So for 3 terms, he was MP. In 1996, he gathered 76% of the votes. In 2000, it went to 79% of the votes. And in 2004, it came down to 78% in that contest. So that is what is important for us to know over there. Now, there's a very interesting thing that happened in that constituency or two, that's MP in 2008. Now, if you remember, in 2007, when then Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who was then an MP for the Boakwa area and also a foreign affairs minister, decided to step down to contest to become president and become flag bearer for the MPP, that created a lacuna in the foreign affairs ministry role. So Akwesi Osei Eje was actually elevated and became Ghana's foreign affairs minister around that time. Howbeit, in June 2008, when he tried to contest in the parliamentary primaries, he lost to one man called Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi. At that time, Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi was simply the Ashanti Regional Director of the Ghana Highway Authority. So he came in as a newbie in 2008, whipping no other person than the incumbent Foreign Affairs Minister and MP. Now, in that contest, it was a very small constituency. If you remember, those days, the post or the voter, those who vote were not so many. The election rule was not expanded as we have now. So it was just a few 95. That's for internal primaries. So 95 people, 162 in total voted in that year. 95 voted for Aduomi. That is Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi. And then Osei Eje had 67 votes. And then Aduomi became the parliamentary candidate in 2008. So that is how Kwabena Aduomi entered into the elections. Now let's see what happened subsequently. In his first contest, and as I said, it was then known as the Ejisu constituency, he actually gave the NDC a beating. In that contest, he gathered 57,278 of the vote, which was 82.34%. Remember that Akwesi Osei had done 79%, and a new B comes in and is already giving the MPP 82% in that constituency. So he comes back again in April 2011 and says, I want to contest and represent the people of Ejisu once again in the 2012 elections. He goes in, and Akwesi Osei Eje, who tries to stage a comeback, loses in that contest. Then in 2012, Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi also goes back into the contest, and once again, even though his results came down marginally, he still did over 80%. That is 80.52%. Then we move to 2016. In 2016, the constituency was split. So Ejisu GHOne constituency became the Ejisu constituency and the GHOne constituencies. Now, a new face comes in by the name John Kuma. And that was the first time he reared his head into the politics in Ejisu. However, he lost to Kwabena Owusu-Edome in that contest. And so Kwabena Owusu-Edome still remained for the third time the parliamentary candidate for the NPP. Once again, he goes and contests in the 2016 elections. I remember this was the elections that made or brought President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So that is what brought the governing New Patriotic Party, of which they've been serving for the past 7.5 years. So in this contest, he performs better than anyone else in the history, getting some 83.8% and giving them one of the highest they've ever had in that constituency. So fast forward to 2020. John Kuma now comes back again. This time, John Kuma was then the CEO of the NEIP. And then John Kuma beats Kwabena Owusu-Edome. Now note that the Electoral College had now been expanded to over 600 people from the 195 he came to meet. However, it was still a very close contest. So Edome gathered 307 votes and John Kuma gathered 397 votes.
So 90 more.
90 more. However, being able to pull over 300 still showed that at least he had some clout within the ranks and files of the party. So that's what happened. And then John Kuma goes to the poll. He just faces one George Kwame Huze. And then John Kuma also does well. However, John Kuma's 82.83% is actually lower than the 83.8% Edome had done 4 years prior. So although the numbers are shot up, John Kuma percentage-wise did not perform as well in terms of share of the vote as his predecessor, Kwabena Owusu-Edome. So we'll do something here. We'll study the trends that we have. Now, in 1996, when the NPP started, they just were somewhere around 76% of the votes in Ejisu. By 2016, Kwabena Owusu-Edome had taken them up to 83%, and John Kuma brings it down to 82%. So this is a general view of how the NPP has performed, very charitably and so well in there. However, unfortunately, John Kuma loses his life, but Edome says, I want to go independent. So that is what has become the big fix here. Because Edome is so popular that in the history of the NPP in Ejisu, he has gathered the highest percentage of voter share in that constituency. So who and who are front runners tomorrow? Let's have a look at that and then we continue. So this is a clear race. About 7 people picked up forms, 6 people are contesting, but from the looks of things, it's a 2-horse race between the 3-term MP, Kwabena Owusu-Edome, and the new candidate for the NPP, Kwabena Boateng. I prefer to call it the Battle of the Kwabenas. And interestingly, there are so many similarities among them. So the name, as I've said, Kwabena Owusu-Edome, Kwabena Boateng, first of all. Occupation, Kwabena Owusu-Edome is a civil engineer by profession, and Kwabena Boateng is a lawyer. Now this is where it gets interesting. They were both born in the month of September from checks. Edome is September 17, Boateng is September 23rd. They both attended the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. However, in line with their occupation, you see that Edome did a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering in 1985, and Kwabena Boateng did an LLB at the KNUST and went on to do his Bachelor of Law at the Ghana School of Law, completing in or being called to the bar in 2016. Now, when it comes to the career, Edome, per his age or how long he has been in there, has done a lot of work. However, majority of his work, in fact, his entire life prior to politics after school, has been in the public service, in the position of or in the company or the institution of the Ghana Highway Authority. So from 1987 up until he resigned to move into parliament in 2008, he was in or with the Ghana Highway Authority. He started as a maintenance engineer in Tamale from 1987 to 1994. He moved on to become projects manager in the Western region from 1994 to 2002. And from 2002 to 2008, when he finally resigned, he was regional director for the Ashanti Regional Ghana Highway Authority. Now, afterwards, he has been a member of parliament for 3 terms. And then in the first term of the president, he actually was a deputy roads minister, which is so much in line with his role. Well, when it comes to Kwabena Boateng, he's not had so much because he left school not so long ago, barely 10 years ago. He's been a private legal practitioner for the most of the time. However, when it comes to his other roles, it's been political. Polling station executive, which he was. And then in 2020, actually, he was elected second vice chair of the Ejisu constituency. He had not completed his 4-year term. And then when the gap came, he put out himself for the bid and then became the candidate, or the parliamentary candidate. So that is it for the two of them. But then the last thing before I leave, what have the polls been saying? So now we all know Global Info Analytics. They do a lot of work around, and it's a very, very, very tight race. So let me walk you through that. So this is what the poll is saying. Who wins Ejisu by-elections? When the team from Global Info Analytics did their polling, Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi, who happens to be number 4 on the ballot and the independent candidate, is, according to them, is likely to get 47.5%. And then Kwabena Boateng, who is the NPP's candidate, is likely to get 50.6%. However, there is a margin of error of plus or minus 3.42%. Now, let me explain what a margin of error in this sense means. It means that each person or their projected pool could go up by as high as 3.42 or come down by 3.42. In this instance, if the weight of the margin of error lands in the camp of Kwabena Owusu-Aduomi, 3.42 added to his 4.75 takes him up to over 50%, with Kwabena Boateng losing significantly and coming down. If it goes to Kwabena Boateng, he has his way. Even if 1% of the margin of error goes the way of Kwabena Boateng, he already has a good stance of 50.6%, and he just needs to get the wind in his favor a bit, and that is what happens. So, Francis, and to you out there, this is basically a breakdown of the historical trend of the people of Ejisu and what the pollsters are saying in this keen race among the two.